You are not overwhelmed. You are distracted. Your mind isn't weak, it's just divided. Genius is not about intelligence, it's about attention. Right now, your focus is being stolen by noise, by notifications, by habits you never chose. And whatever controls your attention controls your life. This audiobook will teach you one skill: how to focus deeply, deliberately, and relentlessly on what actually matters. Not motivation, not hype, control. Because genius doesn't start with talent. Genius starts with focus.
Chapter 1. Stop multitasking and start winning. Multitasking is not a skill. It's a lie you were taught to believe. You were told that doing more at once makes you efficient, that juggling tasks makes you productive, that answering messages while working, listening while scrolling, thinking while reacting is the mark of a capable mind. It's not. It's the mark of a scattered one. Multitasking doesn't make you faster. It makes you sloppy. It doesn't make you smarter. It makes you tired. And it definitely doesn't make you a winner. Here's the truth most people avoid. You cannot do two important things well at the same time. You can only switch between them, and every switch costs you. That's the key. Every time you jump from one task to another, your brain pays a tax, a focus tax, an energy tax, a momentum tax. You don't feel it immediately, but you feel it by the end of the day. That mental fog, that exhaustion without real progress, that feeling of being busy but not effective. That's not a lack of effort, that's fractured attention. Multitasking is a performance killer. Say it again. Multitasking is a performance killer. When you switch tasks, your brain doesn't reset instantly. It drags residue from the previous task into the next one. So you're never fully present, never fully sharp, never fully locked in. You're half thinking, half committed, half focused. And half-focused effort creates half results. That's why you work longer hours but move slower. That's why simple tasks feel heavy. That's why you procrastinate without knowing why. It's not laziness, it's overload. Your mind was not designed to sprint in 10 directions at once. It was designed to lock on to one target and execute. One task, one mind, one outcome. Say it again. One task, one mind, one outcome. That's how winners operate. Look at anything done at a high level. Anything. Athletes don't train while checking notifications. Surgeons don't operate while answering emails. Pilots don't land planes while scrolling feeds. Why? Because when the cost of distraction is high, focus becomes non-negotiable. Your life deserves that same seriousness. But you treat your goals casually. You let other people's urgency become your priority. You don't need their permission to focus. Read that again. You don't need their permission. If you don't defend your attention, someone else will take it, and they'll take it cheaply.
Here's another hard truth. Most people don't multitask because they're capable. They multitask because they're uncomfortable. Uncomfortable with silence, uncomfortable with depth, uncomfortable with facing one hard thing fully. So they escape. They check messages, they open tabs, they stay busy. But busy is not progress. Busy is avoidance wearing a mask. You have a choice. You can scatter your energy and stay average, or you can concentrate it and become dangerous. That's the choice. Focus creates speed. Distraction creates delay. This is not motivational talk. This is mechanics. When you focus deeply, you eliminate friction. Decisions become clearer. Actions become cleaner. Results arrive faster. Not because you rushed, but because you stopped leaking attention. Most delays in life are not caused by lack of ability. They're caused by divided focus. You start something, you interrupt it, you come back, you reorient, you interrupt again. That constant restarting is exhausting. Imagine trying to push a car uphill, but every 10 seconds you let it roll back. That's multitasking. Hard work, minimal progress. Here's the rule you must adopt. If it matters, it deserves your full attention. Not some, not most, all. If you're writing, write. If you're planning, plan. If you're learning, learn. If you're resting, rest. Stop mixing modes. That's the key. Now let's talk about what this means for you practically. Starting today, you must stop glorifying chaos. Stop bragging about being busy. Stop pretending overload is ambition. Stop wearing exhaustion like a badge. Winners are not scattered, they are precise. They don't do everything, they do the right thing fully. One task, one mind, one outcome. Burn that into your thinking. You don't need better tools. You don't need more time. You don't need another productivity hack. You need attention discipline. That means one screen at a time, one conversation at a time, one priority at a time. Anything else is self-sabotage. You have a choice. You can keep switching and stay tired, or you can commit and start winning. Here's your challenge for this chapter. For the next 24 hours, do not multitask on anything important. When you work, work. When you think, think. When you decide, decide. Catch yourself when you drift and bring the mind back, again and again. That's how control is built. Multitasking trained your brain to scatter. Focus will retrain it to dominate. But focus doesn't survive in chaos, and that leads us to the next truth you must face. If you don't protect your attention, you will lose it. In the next chapter, we go deeper. We talk about guarding your attention like a weapon and why everything in the world is competing to steal it from you. Because once you stop multitasking, you must learn how to defend your focus. That's next. Stay locked in. Chapter 2. Guard your attention like a weapon. Your attention is under attack. Not sometimes, not occasionally, all the time. Every app, every notification, every breaking update, every message that says, just 1 second. That second is never just a second. It's a breach. And most people leave the gate wide open. Here's the truth you need to hear clearly. Your attention is your most valuable asset. Not your time, not your money, not your talent. Your attention. Because whatever has your attention directs your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your actions. Your actions build your life. That's the chain. Break the chain and you lose control. That's the key. Most people think focus is about effort. It's not. Focus is about defense. You don't lose focus because you're weak. You lose focus because you're exposed. You let anything interrupt you. Anyone pull you away. Any noise take priority. And then you wonder why you feel scattered. You have a choice. You can keep being accessible to everything, or you can become dangerous by being selective. Let's get something straight. The world does not respect your focus. It exploits it. Companies are built to capture it. Algorithms are designed to hook it. People are trained to demand it. And none of them care about your goals. If you don't guard your attention, someone else will spend it for you. Cheaply. Think about this. Every time you react instantly to a notification, you teach your brain one lesson. I am interruptible. Every time you drop deep work to check something minor, you reinforce distraction. This is training. Negative training. And over time, your mind becomes jumpy, restless, impatient. You sit down to focus, and 5 minutes later, you're gone. Not because you can't focus, but because you've trained yourself not to. You don't need their permission to disconnect. Say it again. You don't need their permission. Here's the rule you must adopt. Anything that interrupts your focus must earn the right to be there, not the other way around. Right now, everything has free access to your mind. That ends here. Guarding your attention starts with a shift in identity. You are not available by default. You are not on call for nonsense. You are not obligated to respond immediately. You are not required to consume everything. Silence is not ignorance. Delay is not disrespect. It's discipline. That's the key. Let's talk about consumption. What you consume mentally determines how you think. If you feed your mind chaos, don't expect clarity. If you feed it noise, don't expect insight. If you feed it constant stimulation, don't expect depth. You cannot scroll your way to greatness. Say it clearly. You cannot scroll your way to greatness. Most people start their day by surrendering attention. Phone first, notifications first, other people's priorities first. And then they wonder why they feel behind before the day even starts. You gave away the steering wheel. You have a choice. You can start your day intentionally, or you can start it reactively. One builds power. The other builds anxiety. Guarding your attention means creating barriers. Barriers are not limitations, they are protection. You lock your door at night not because you're weak, but because what's inside matters. Your mind matters. Here are non-negotiables if you want real focus. Notifications are off during deep work. Messages are checked on your schedule, not theirs. Input is limited before output. Silence is allowed. This is not extreme. This is necessary. That's the key. Now let's talk about people. Some people will not like your boundaries. They benefited from your lack of them. When you stop being instantly available, you'll feel resistance. Good. That means the boundary is working. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to justify your focus. You don't need their permission. Attention leaks are subtle. 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, a quick glance, a just checking, and suddenly an hour is gone. Guarding attention is about catching leaks early, not after damage is done. Here's a powerful mindset shift. If it's not aligned with my priorities, it's a distraction. Not evil, not bad, just unnecessary. And unnecessary things don't get access to your best energy. You must also learn this truth. Your brain craves novelty, not progress. That's why distractions feel tempting. They're easy dopamine. Focus feels harder because it delays reward. But delayed reward builds power. Instant reward builds dependency. You have a choice. Short-term comfort or long-term control. That's the choice. Guarding your attention also means guarding your environment. Your environment shapes your behavior more than motivation ever will. If distractions are visible, they are powerful. If they are hidden, they are weak. Remove what tempts you. Don't rely on willpower. That's the key.
Here's your challenge for this chapter. For the next 24 hours, treat your attention like something valuable. Before you react, ask, does this deserve my focus right now? If the answer is no, delay it, mute it, remove it. Not forever, just not now. Focus is not built by doing more. It's built by allowing less. Less noise, less interruption, less mental clutter. And when you guard your attention, something powerful happens. Clarity returns, energy stabilizes, confidence grows. Because for the first time, your mind is working for you, not against you. But guarding attention is not enough. Once distractions are reduced, you face a new challenge: deciding what actually matters. Because focus without direction is wasted power. In the next chapter, we confront the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. If you don't decide what matters, you'll spend your life reacting to what doesn't. That's next. Stay disciplined, stay selective, stay in control.
Chapter 3. Decide what matters or stay average. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they lack decision. They wake up, they react, they respond, they move all day, but they never decide. And if you don't decide what matters, your life will be filled with things that don't. That's the key. Let's start with a hard truth. Focus without direction is wasted power. You can eliminate distractions. You can guard your attention, but if you don't know what deserves that attention, you're just being disciplined in the wrong direction. That's how people stay busy for years and still end up average. Effort alone is not enough. Direction decides everything. Here's the problem most people avoid. Choosing what matters means rejecting what doesn't, and rejection is uncomfortable. It means saying no. It means disappointing people. It means letting go of options. It means committing before you feel ready. So instead, people stay vague. They say things like, "I'm working on a few things. I'm figuring it out. I'm keeping my options open." That sounds smart. It's not. It's fear disguised as flexibility. You have a choice. You can be clear and uncomfortable, or vague and average. That's the choice. Let's be direct. You cannot focus on everything. Trying to do so is not ambition. It's avoidance. Avoidance of commitment. Avoidance of responsibility. Avoidance of choosing a path and standing on it. Genius is not scattered. Genius is selective. One direction. Few priorities. Full commitment. Say it again. Few priorities. Full commitment. Right now, your mind is crowded. Too many goals. Too many shoulds. Too many half decisions. And every unfinished decision drains mental energy. You think clarity comes from thinking more. It doesn't. Clarity comes from choosing. That's the key. Here's a rule you must live by if you want to win. If everything matters, nothing does. Average people treat all tasks the same. Elite performers don't. They know the difference between urgent and important, between noise and signal, between movement and progress. They ask one dangerous question: what matters most right now? And then they build their day around that answer. Not convenience, not mood, not pressure from others. Priority. Let's talk about the myth of balance. Balance sounds healthy, but balance often becomes an excuse. An excuse to not go deep. An excuse to not commit fully. An excuse to keep everything half live. There are seasons in life. Seasons where one thing must matter more than everything else. You don't need permission to prioritize. Say it again. You don't need their permission. Deciding what matters means accepting trade-offs. Time spent here cannot be spent there. Energy invested in this cannot be invested in that.
Most people want progress without sacrifice. It doesn't work like that. Progress demands a price. The question is not if you'll pay. The question is what you'll pay with. Focus or regret? That's the choice. Let's get practical. You need one primary focus. Not 5, not 10. 1. This doesn't mean you only do one thing in life. It means one thing gets your best energy, your clearest thinking, your deepest focus, your most disciplined effort. Everything else becomes secondary, supportive, scheduled, contained, not competing. That's the key. Here's how you know something truly matters. It moves your long-term life forward. It compounds over time. It's uncomfortable but meaningful. It requires focus, not distraction. If something feels urgent but doesn't meet these criteria, it's probably noise. Noise feels loud, but it leads nowhere. Another uncomfortable truth. Most people confuse activity with importance. They respond quickly. They stay busy. They attend everything. They check everything. And at the end of the year, nothing has changed. Movement is not progress. Direction turns movement into progress. Deciding what matters also means simplifying. You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your clarity. Too many goals equals diluted effort. Few goals equals concentrated power. That's why simplifying feels powerful. Your mind relaxes, your focus sharpens, your actions become cleaner, because you finally know what deserves a yes, and everything else gets a no.
Here's the phrase you must practice. Not now. Not now is not never. It's intentional delay. It's saying, this may be good, but it's not the priority. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's focus. You don't need to chase every opportunity. You need to commit to the right one. Let's talk about fear. Fear shows up when decisions matter. Fear says, what if I choose wrong? What if I miss out? What if I fail? Here's the truth. Indecision is a decision, and it's usually the worst one. At least with a clear choice, you gain feedback, you learn, you adjust. With indecision, you drift, and drifting wastes years. You have a choice. Now here's a powerful reframe. You don't find what matters. You decide it. Waiting for clarity before commitment is backward. Clarity follows action. Decide, commit, refine. That's how focus becomes direction. That's the key. Your challenge for this chapter is simple, but not easy. Today, write down the one thing that matters most right now. Not what's loud, not what's urgent, what truly moves your life forward. Then ask yourself, if this is the priority, what must be reduced? Reduce distractions, reduce commitments, reduce optional noise. Not forever, but for now. Once you decide what matters, something changes. Your focus has a target. Your discipline has a purpose. Your effort has meaning. You stop feeling scattered. You stop feeling overwhelmed, because overwhelm comes from trying to carry everything. Focus comes from choosing what to carry and dropping the rest. But here's what's coming next. Once you decide what matters, you will face resistance. Internal resistance, external resistance. Distractions will fight harder. Old habits will pull back. Your environment will test you. And that's why the next chapter is critical. Because knowing what matters is not enough if your environment keeps pulling you away. In the next chapter, we talk about this truth. You must eliminate distractions without negotiation, because focus cannot survive in a hostile environment. That's next. Stay committed, Stay clear, stay intentional. Chapter 4. Eliminate distractions without negotiation. Distractions do not negotiate. They invade. They don't ask politely. They interrupt aggressively. And if you treat distractions casually, they will dominate your life quietly. Here is the truth most people avoid. Focus cannot survive in a hostile environment. That's the key. You can want focus. You can plan for focus. You can even value focus. But if your environment is built for distraction, your willpower will lose. Every time. Let's be clear. Distractions are not accidents. They are systems, designed systems. Your phone, your apps, your workspace, your habits, your routines. All of them either support focus or sabotage it. And right now, most people live inside systems that destroy attention. Then they blame themselves. That's backwards. Here's a hard truth you need to accept. You cannot negotiate with distraction. You cannot say, I'll just check for a second. I'll respond quickly. I'll multitask this time. Distraction doesn't respect limits. It takes what you give it, and then it asks for more. That's the key. Most people try to fight distraction with willpower. That's like trying to stop a flood with your hands. You get tired. You lose focus. You feel weak. Not because you are weak, but because you chose the wrong strategy. The correct strategy is elimination. Remove the trigger. Remove the temptation. Remove the access. Focus becomes easy when distractions are gone. Let's talk about your phone. Your phone is not neutral. It is the most powerful distraction device ever created. It trains your brain to expect stimulation, to seek novelty, to avoid boredom. And boredom is where focus is built. If your phone is always within reach, your attention is never fully yours. That's the truth. You have a choice. You can keep your phone close and stay distracted, or you can create distance and regain control. Distance is discipline. Here's a rule you must adopt. What you see controls what you think about. If distractions are visible, they are powerful. If they are hidden, they are weak. That's not motivation, that's psychology. So stop testing yourself. Remove apps from your home screen. Put your phone in another room. Close unnecessary tabs. Clear your workspace. You are not limiting yourself, you are freeing yourself. That's the key. Now let's talk about just-in-case thinking. Just in case someone messages. Just in case something urgent happens. Just in case you miss out. That fear keeps people distracted. But here's the reality. Most things are not urgent. Most messages can wait. Most noise adds no value. Urgency is often manufactured, and manufactured urgency steals real progress. You don't need their permission to be unavailable. Say it again. You don't need their permission. Another truth you must accept. Distraction feels harmless in the moment, but expensive over time. One interruption doesn't ruin your life, but repeated interruptions ruin momentum. Momentum is fragile. It takes time to build and seconds to destroy. That's why elimination matters. Let's talk about your environment beyond technology. Your workspace matters. Your schedule matters. Your surroundings matter. If your workspace invites distraction, your mind will follow. Messy space, messy thinking. Clutter is visual noise. Visual noise becomes mental noise. Simplify. Less on the desk, less on the screen, less in the room. More focus in the mind. Now let's address people. Some people will resist your new boundaries. They benefited from your distraction, your instant replies, your constant availability, your lack of structure. When you change, they notice, and they may push back. That's normal. But here's the rule. Anyone who disrespects your focus is disrespecting your future. Read that again. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. Your actions are the boundary. Eliminating distractions also means eliminating habits. Habits like checking your phone first thing in the morning, opening email before doing real work, reacting before thinking, filling silence with noise. These habits train distraction, and what you train grows stronger. That's the key. Here's a powerful reframe. Discipline is not restriction. Discipline is clarity. When distractions are removed, decisions disappear. You don't ask, should I check? There's nothing to check. You don't debate focus. There's nothing competing for it. That's freedom. Now here's your challenge for this chapter. Today, eliminate 3 distractions without negotiation. Not reduce, not manage. Eliminate. 1 digital, 1 environmental, 1 habitual. Remove access, create distance, make focus easier. Do not trust future willpower. Design your environment now. When you do this, something surprising happens. Your mind slows down. Your thinking sharpens. Your energy stabilizes. Because your brain is no longer switching constantly, it can finally stay. Stay with 1 thought, 1 task, 1 goal. 1 task, 1 mind, 1 outcome. But understand this, even with distractions removed, focus still requires effort. Because focus is not passive, it is trained. And that brings us to the next chapter. Once distractions are eliminated, you must learn how to train your mind to stay present. Because attention will wander. That's normal. What matters is how quickly you bring it back. That skill changes everything. That's next. Stay disciplined, stay intentional, stay in control.
Chapter 5. Train your mind to stay present. Your mind will wander. That is not a flaw. That is human. The problem is not that your attention drifts. The problem is that you let it stay lost. That's the key. Focus is not about never losing attention. Focus is about how fast you bring it back, again and again and again. That is training. Most people misunderstand focus. They think focused people are locked in effortlessly, that they never drift, that their minds are naturally calm. That's a lie. Focused people drift too. They just don't panic when it happens. They don't quit. They don't judge themselves. They return. You have a choice. You can get frustrated when your mind wanders, or you can treat it like a rep at the gym. Every return to focus is a repetition, and repetitions build strength. That's the key. Let's be clear. Focus is a skill, not a personality trait. You were not born distracted. You were trained into it. Notifications trained you. Multitasking trained you. Constant stimulation trained you. And what is trained can be retrained, but only if you stop expecting instant mastery. Here's where most people fail. They sit down to focus. Their mind drifts after 30 seconds, and they think, I can't focus. Wrong. That moment, right there, is where focus begins. That is the moment that matters most. Because when you notice distraction and bring your attention back, you are actively training control. That's the key. Think of your mind like a muscle. If you never train it, it gets weak. If you overload it randomly, it gets injured. But if you train it progressively, it gets strong. Short focus sessions, clear intention, consistent practice. That's how presence is built. Let's talk about staying present. Presence is not mystical, it's practical. It means your attention is on what you are doing now, not the past, not the future, not the noise. If you're reading, read. If you're writing, write. If you're listening, listen. Stop splitting attention. Split attention is diluted power. Here's a rule you must live by. Your body should be where your mind is. Most people's bodies are in one place and their minds are everywhere else. That creates tension, anxiety, mental fatigue. Presence removes that friction. That's the key. Now let's talk about the return. When your mind drifts, and it will, do not fight it aggressively. Do not insult yourself. Do not give up. Simply notice. Then return. Calmly, firmly, without drama. This is discipline. Not force, not frustration. Discipline.
Say this phrase internally when you drift. Bring it back. That's it. No emotion, no judgment. Bring it back. Again and again. Over time, the drift shortens. The returns get faster. Focus stabilizes. That's training. Most people quit focus training too early. They expect control in days. It takes weeks, sometimes months. But here's the truth. Every minute of focused effort compounds. Even when it feels messy, even when it feels imperfect, you are building something invisible, mental endurance. That's the key. Now let's talk about boredom. Boredom is not the enemy of focus. Boredom is the gateway. Your brain hates boredom because boredom forces presence. No stimulation, no novelty, just you and the task. That discomfort is where growth happens. Most people escape boredom instantly. They reach for their phone, they switch tasks, they distract themselves. And by doing so, they train avoidance. You have a choice. Stay with boredom or stay average. That's the choice. Training presence also means slowing down. Rushing scatters attention. Speed without control creates mistakes. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. When you slow your movements, your mind follows. When you slow your breathing, your focus stabilizes. Presence starts in the body. That's the key. Let's get practical. Here's how you train presence daily. Choose one task. Set a clear start and end time. Remove obvious distractions. Begin. When your mind drifts, bring it back. That's it. Not complicated, just consistent. Another truth you must accept. You cannot force focus through exhaustion. If you are mentally fried, your focus will suffer. That doesn't mean quit. It means adjust. Shorter sessions, clearer goals, more recovery. Training works best when it's sustainable. Let's talk about identity. Stop saying, "I'm easily distracted." That statement trains weakness. Instead, say, "I'm training my focus." Language matters. What you repeat, you reinforce. That's the key. Presence also requires honesty. If you don't care about the task, focus will be harder. That's not failure, that's information. Sometimes the solution is not trying harder, but realigning priorities. Presence follows meaning. Now here's a powerful realization. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts appear, they pass. You choose which ones to follow. When you learn this, distraction loses its power. You stop chasing every thought. You let them come and go, and your focus stays anchored. Your challenge for this chapter is simple but demanding. Today, choose one task. Work on it for 20 minutes. No switching, no checking, no negotiating. When your mind drifts, bring it back. Count how many times you return. Each return is a win. Over time, something changes. Your mind becomes quieter, your attention steadier, your confidence stronger. Because control feels powerful. And once you taste that power, you stop tolerating distraction. But here's what comes next. Training presence is step one. The next step is harder. Because once you can focus, you must decide what to focus on first. And that means facing resistance. Because the hardest tasks are always the ones we avoid. In the next chapter, we confront this truth. Do the hard thing first. Because focus without courage still leads to procrastination. That's next. Stay patient, stay disciplined, stay present. Chapter 6. Do the hard thing first. The hardest task is always the most important one. And that's exactly why you avoid it. Not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because resistance is real. That's the key. Every meaningful goal has a gatekeeper. That gatekeeper is discomfort, and the task you delay the most is the task that would move your life forward the fastest. Read that again. The task you delay the most is the task that matters the most. Most people start their day wrong. They begin with what's easy, what's familiar, what feels productive. They answer emails, they organize, they check messages, they do busy work. It feels good, but it's a trap. Easy tasks give quick relief. Hard tasks give long-term results. And if you choose relief over results, you stay stuck. You have a choice. Let's be direct. Procrastination is not a time problem. It's an emotional problem. You don't delay because you don't know what to do. You delay because the task creates discomfort, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not doing it perfectly. So you avoid. You distract yourself. You tell yourself you'll do it later. Later rarely comes. That's the key. Here's what winners understand. Resistance is a signal. It points to growth. If a task feels heavy, it's probably important. If a task feels uncomfortable, it's probably necessary. Comfort rarely creates progress. The hard thing first principle is simple. Do the task that creates the most resistance before anything else. Not after warming up, not after clearing your inbox, not after checking notifications. First. Because your willpower is highest early. Your focus is sharpest early. Your excuses are weakest early. That's when you strike. Most people wait to feel ready. That feeling is a myth. Read this carefully. Readiness is a reward for action, not a prerequisite. You don't feel ready, then start. You start, then you feel ready. That's the key. Doing the hard thing first rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids. You become someone who confronts. That identity shift is powerful because confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you do the hard thing, you vote for a stronger version of yourself. Let's talk about momentum. Momentum does not come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters. When you complete the hardest task early, everything else feels lighter. Stress drops. Clarity increases. Energy stabilizes. Why? Because the mental weight is gone. The thing you were carrying all day, that quiet anxiety, disappears. That's the key. Now let's address perfectionism. Perfectionism is not high standards. It's fear. Fear of starting, fear of being seen, fear of getting it wrong. So you wait, you plan more, you tweak, you prepare endlessly, and nothing moves.
Here's the truth. Done imperfectly beats planned perfectly. Every time. You don't need to impress anyone. You need to progress. You don't need their permission. Say it again. You don't need their permission. Doing the hard thing first also builds discipline. Discipline is not about motivation, it's about order. Hard first, easy later. When you flip that order, your day works for you. When you don't, your day controls you. That's the key. Let's talk about avoidance patterns. Most people hide from the hard thing by staying busy. They clean, they organize, they research, they consume content. All useful, but not now. Busy is comfortable. Progress is uncomfortable. You must learn to tell the difference. Here's a powerful question to ask every morning. If I could only do one thing today that would make everything else easier or unnecessary, what would it be? That's your hard thing. Do that first. No negotiation. Now let's talk about fear again. Fear does not disappear when you avoid it. It grows. The more you delay, the bigger the task feels, the more power it seems to have over you. But when you start, even badly, fear shrinks. Action dissolves fear. That's the key. Most people wait for confidence, but confidence is built through action. You don't gain confidence by thinking. You gain it by doing difficult things and surviving. Each hard task completed tells your brain one message: I can handle discomfort. That belief changes everything. Doing the hard thing first also sharpens focus. Why? Because hard tasks demand presence. You cannot multitask through difficulty. You cannot half focus on complexity. The hard thing forces depth, and depth is where genius operates. Let's be honest. Some days you won't want to do it. That's normal. Discipline is not doing it when you feel good. It's doing it when you don't. You have a choice. Act on feelings or act on standards. Standards create consistency. That's the key. Here's a rule you must adopt. No reward before resistance. No scrolling before the hard task. No entertainment before progress. No comfort before commitment. Earn your ease. Earn your rest. Now let's make this practical. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, identify the hardest task. Set a clear, limited time block. Start immediately. No warming up, no checking, no delay. Start messy if you must. Starting is the win. You might feel tension. That's fine. You might feel doubt. That's normal. You might feel resistance. That's expected. Do it anyway. That's how winners are built. Here's what happens when you make this a habit. Your tolerance for discomfort increases. Your procrastination decreases. Your self-respect grows. Because you stop lying to yourself. You stop saying later. You start saying now. Your challenge for this chapter is simple and uncomfortable. Tomorrow, do the hardest thing first. Before messages, before emails, before distractions. Commit to just starting. 5 minutes if needed, but start. When you do, something powerful happens. You realize the hard thing was never the enemy. Avoidance was. And once avoidance loses its grip, focus becomes easier. Discipline becomes natural. But there's another problem waiting. Even when you do the hard thing first, decision fatigue can wear you down. Choosing every day drains energy. That's why the next chapter matters deeply. Because the next level of focus does not rely on willpower. It relies on ritual. In the next chapter, we build this truth. Create deep work rituals. Because when focus becomes automatic, you stop fighting yourself. That's next. Stay strong, stay uncomfortable, stay winning.
Chapter 7. Create deep work rituals. Willpower is unreliable. Some days it shows up, some days it disappears. If your focus depends on how you feel, you will lose more days than you win. That's the key. High performers don't rely on motivation, they rely on ritual. Because ritual removes choice, and when choice disappears, resistance weakens. Let's get one thing straight. Decision fatigue destroys focus. Every decision drains mental energy. What time to start, where to work, what to do first, how long to continue. By the time you actually begin, your mind is already tired. That's why rituals matter. Rituals decide in advance, so you don't have to. Most people wake up and negotiate with themselves. I'll start after breakfast. I'll check one thing first. I'll begin when I feel focused. That negotiation is the enemy. Every negotiation delays action. Every delay strengthens avoidance. Ritual ends the debate. That's the key. A deep work ritual answers 4 questions automatically. When do I start? Where do I work?
What do I work on? How long do I stay? No thinking, no debating, no adjusting. You just show up. Here's the truth most people miss. Consistency beats intensity. You don't need massive focus sessions once a week. You need repeatable focus sessions every day. Ritual makes that possible. Same time, same place, same rules. Your brain learns the pattern. And once the pattern is learned, focus becomes automatic. Think about athletes. They don't decide randomly when to train. They don't negotiate with discomfort. They follow a routine. That routine tells the body it's time. Deep work rituals do the same for the mind. Let's talk about the power of cues. Your brain responds to signals, a specific time, a specific location, a specific action. When those signals repeat, your brain switches modes automatically. That's conditioning. And conditioning is stronger than motivation. That's the key. Here's an example. If you always work deeply at the same desk, at the same time, with the same setup, your brain associates that environment with focus. Sit down and you're already halfway there. No forcing, no fighting, just entering the state. Most people do the opposite. They work everywhere, at random times, with constant interruptions. And then they wonder why focus feels hard. There's no pattern to trigger it. Let's build your ritual. A deep work ritual must be simple, not fancy, not complicated. Simple is repeatable. Rule number 1, start at the same time every day. Not when you feel like it, not when things calm down. Time creates discipline. Even if the session is short, start on time. Showing up matters more than duration. Rule number 2, work in the same place. Your bed is not a ritual space. Your couch is not a ritual space. Your focus space must signal seriousness. Clean, minimal, purpose-driven. Environment shapes behavior. That's the key. Rule number 3, begin with the same opening action. This is powerful. It could be opening a notebook, putting on headphones, writing the first sentence, setting a timer. That action tells your brain focus mode begins now. No delay. Rule number 4, set a clear end. Open-ended work invites distraction. A clear end creates urgency. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. Choose one. When the timer ends, you stop. This builds trust with your mind. You're not trapping it, you're training it.
Here's an important truth. Rituals protect focus from emotion. On bad days, you still show up. On good days, you don't overdo it. You stay steady. Steady beats sporadic. Most people wait for the perfect setup, perfect time, perfect mood, perfect silence. That's avoidance. Ritual doesn't care about perfection. It cares about repetition. Let's address boredom again. Ritual creates boredom at first. Same place, same time, same process. Your brain will resist. Good. Boredom is the gateway to depth. Once boredom is accepted, focus deepens. That's the key. Another benefit of ritual, it reduces anxiety. When you know exactly when and how you'll work, your mind relaxes. No constant worrying, no "I should be doing something." You know it's handled. Now, let's talk about protecting the ritual. Your ritual is non-negotiable, not flexible, not optional. If you treat it casually, your brain will too. You don't cancel it for small reasons. You don't shorten it impulsively. You respect it, because it builds your future. Some people will not understand your ritual. They'll interrupt, they'll question it, they'll test your boundaries. That's normal. You don't need to explain. You don't need their permission. Say it again. You don't need their permission. Here's another rule.
No distractions inside the ritual. No messages, no checking, no switching. Ritual without boundaries is useless. If you break the ritual, you train distraction. Let's be honest. You will fail sometimes. You'll miss a day, you'll break focus, you'll feel inconsistent. That doesn't destroy the ritual. Quitting does. Return the next day. No guilt, no drama. Just return. That's discipline. Your challenge for this chapter is simple and powerful. Design one deep work ritual today. Decide time, place, duration, opening action. Write it down. Then follow it tomorrow. Not perfectly, just consistently. When ritual becomes habit, something changes. Focus stops being a struggle. Productivity becomes predictable. Confidence grows quietly. Because you no longer rely on motivation, you rely on structure. But here's what comes next. Even with rituals in place, there will be days when motivation disappears completely. Days when you don't feel driven. Days when energy is low. And that's where most people collapse. So the next chapter is critical, because the next level of mastery is this truth. Learn to work without motivation, because motivation is optional. Discipline is not. That's next. Stay consistent, stay structured, stay focused.
Chapter 8. Learn to work without motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It rises and falls. Some days it shows up strong. Most days it doesn't show up at all. If your progress depends on motivation, your progress will be inconsistent. That's the key. Here's the truth most people don't want to accept. Motivation is not the cause of action. Action is the cause of motivation. Read that again. You don't act because you feel motivated. You feel motivated because you act. Most people wait. Winners move. Motivation is emotional. Focus requires structure. When motivation disappears, and it will, only discipline remains. And discipline is not intensity, it's reliability. Doing the work whether you feel like it or not. Let's be honest. Some days you wake up tired, uninspired, doubtful. Your mind says, not today. Take it easy. Do it tomorrow. That voice sounds reasonable. It's not. It's comfort talking. And comfort has never built anything meaningful. You have a choice. Listen to comfort or obey standards. That's the choice. Most people believe a lie. I'll work hard when I feel motivated. That's backward. Motivation is a reward, not a requirement. If you wait for it, you'll wait forever. That's the key. Let's define discipline properly. Discipline is doing what must be done even when you don't feel like it. Not because it's fun, not because it's exciting, but because it aligns with who you want to become. Identity beats emotion. When you rely on motivation, you become reactive. You work when you feel good. You stop when you feel bad. That creates inconsistency. Inconsistency kills progress. High performers don't ask, how do I feel today? They ask, what is required today? Feelings change. Requirements don't. That mindset shift changes everything. Here's another hard truth. Most motivation is wasted energy. It feels powerful, but it fades quickly. Discipline feels boring, but it compounds. Quiet effort beats emotional hype. Every time. Let's talk about systems again. Systems allow you to work even when motivation is absent. Your ritual tells you when to start. Your environment tells you where to work. Your priority tells you what to do. No thinking, no negotiating, you just begin. That's the key.
Now let's address resistance. Resistance shows up strongest when motivation is lowest. Your mind exaggerates difficulty. It magnifies effort. It whispers excuses. This is normal. Do not argue with resistance. Action silences resistance.
Here's a powerful rule. Start before you feel ready. 5 minutes, that's all. Tell yourself, I'll do just 5 minutes. Most days, 5 becomes 20. 20 becomes momentum, and momentum creates motivation. That's the loop. Another truth. You don't need to feel confident to act. Confidence is built after action, not before. Waiting for confidence is another form of procrastination. You don't need their permission. You don't need your feelings' approval. You just need to start. Let's talk about energy. Some days your energy will be low. That doesn't mean do nothing. It means adjust the intensity, not the standard. You still show up. You still work, but you scale effort. Discipline adapts. It doesn't disappear. That's the key. Now, let's destroy a dangerous belief. If I push myself without motivation, I'll burn out. Burnout doesn't come from discipline. Burnout comes from chaos. No structure, no boundaries, no recovery. Working without motivation inside a system is sustainable. Another reframe you need. Feelings are information, not instructions. Just because you feel tired doesn't mean you stop. Just because you feel bored doesn't mean you quit. You acknowledge the feeling and act anyway. That's emotional control. Most people are ruled by mood. Mood says go. Mood says stop. Discipline says, this is who I am. This is what I do. Identity-driven action is unstoppable. Here's what happens when you learn to work without motivation. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting. You stop overthinking. Progress becomes normal, not dramatic, not emotional, normal. And that's powerful. Your challenge for this chapter is simple but uncomfortable. The next time you feel unmotivated, do not change the plan. Change only one thing. Lower the emotional expectation. Do the work anyway, even at 60%, even imperfectly. Showing up beats intensity. Over time, something shifts. You stop fearing low motivation days because they no longer stop you. You become reliable, consistent, dangerous, because you are no longer dependent on how you feel. But there is another enemy waiting. Even disciplined people lose focus when pleasure becomes uncontrolled. Constant stimulation, easy dopamine, endless entertainment, that weakens discipline quietly, which is why the next chapter matters deeply. In the next chapter, we confront this truth. Control dopamine or lose control of your life, because focus cannot survive when pleasure is unlimited. That's next. Stay disciplined. Stay steady. Stay in control.
Chapter 9. Control dopamine or lose control of your life. Your biggest enemy is not laziness. It's overstimulation. That's the key. You are not distracted because you lack discipline. You are distracted because your brain is addicted to pleasure. Quick pleasure, easy pleasure, constant pleasure. And when pleasure is unlimited, focus collapses. Let's be clear about dopamine. Dopamine is not happiness. It's anticipation. It's the chemical that says, go get that again. And modern life is flooded with it. Scroll, refresh, click, swipe. Each action delivers a tiny hit, not enough to satisfy you, just enough to keep you hooked. That's not an accident. Here's the truth most people never face. A brain trained on constant pleasure cannot tolerate effort. When effort feels boring, you avoid it. When silence feels uncomfortable, you escape it. When focus feels slow, you abandon it. That's dopamine at work. That's the key. High focus requires delayed reward.
But delayed reward feels painful to a brain used to instant gratification. So the brain resists. It says, check something, take a break, just a little entertainment, and you obey. Not because you're weak, but because you're conditioned. Let's talk about the cost. Every time you choose easy pleasure over effort, you train your brain to expect comfort. And what the brain expects, it demands. Over time, deep work feels heavier, focus feels harder, discipline feels impossible. Not because you changed, because your brain did. Most people try to fix this with willpower. They say, I'll just control myself. That rarely works. You don't overpower dopamine, you manage it. That's the key. Here's a hard truth. You cannot build a focused life on unlimited entertainment. You must choose stimulation or strength. You have a choice. Let's talk about boredom again. Boredom is where dopamine resets. When stimulation stops, your brain recalibrates. At first, boredom feels uncomfortable, restless, irritating. That discomfort is withdrawal, and withdrawal means change is happening. Most people escape that feeling immediately. They never reset. Here's something important. If you cannot sit in silence, you cannot focus deeply. Silence reveals craving. Craving reveals dependence. Facing it builds control. That's the key. Now let's be practical. You do not need to eliminate pleasure. You need to earn it. Earned pleasure strengthens discipline. Unearned pleasure weakens it. That's the rule. Here's a powerful standard. No dopamine before discipline. No scrolling before deep work. No entertainment before the hard task. No reward before effort. Earn your pleasure. Say it again. Earn your dopamine. Let's talk about mornings. How you start your day sets your dopamine baseline. If the first thing you do is grab stimulation, phone, news, social feeds, your brain expects high stimulation all day, and anything slow feels unbearable. Start the day calmly. Silence, movement, intentional focus. Lower stimulation early so focus feels natural later. That's the key. Another truth, constant novelty destroys patience. When everything is exciting, nothing is meaningful. Depth requires staying with one thing long enough for insight to appear. But insight doesn't arrive instantly. It arrives after boredom, after resistance, after staying. Most people quit right before depth begins. They switch tasks, they change inputs, they chase novelty, and they wonder why they never feel sharp. Depth punishes impatience. Now let's address entertainment. Entertainment is not evil, but uncontrolled entertainment is dangerous. It trains your brain to expect reward without effort, and effort is where growth lives. That's the key.
Here's a rule you must adopt. Entertainment is scheduled, not impulsive. If you consume whenever you feel like it, you're not in control. Schedule pleasure. When it's planned, it doesn't hijack focus. Another dangerous habit, microdopamine. Quick checks, quick glances, quick hits. They feel harmless. They're not. They fragment attention and destroy momentum. Momentum requires uninterrupted time. Protect it. Let's talk about discomfort again. Discomfort is not danger, it's training. When you resist the urge to stimulate yourself, you strengthen self-control. Each resisted impulse builds focus endurance. That's the key. Here's a mindset shift. Craving does not require action. You can feel the urge without obeying it. Urges rise, urges fall. You stay. That's mastery. Most people think control is suppression. It's not. Control is choosing long-term power over short-term pleasure. Again and again. Your challenge for this chapter is simple, but revealing. For the next 24 hours, no entertainment before deep work. No scrolling out of boredom. No stimulation as an escape. When the urge appears, pause. Notice it. Do nothing. Let it pass. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Good. That discomfort is your brain recalibrating. That's how focus is restored. Over time, something changes. Silence becomes tolerable. Boredom becomes neutral. Focus becomes easier. Because your brain is no longer hijacked by constant pleasure. But here's the next level. Even with dopamine controlled, focus can still break when endurance is low. You may start strong, then fade. That's not a discipline issue, it's stamina. And that's why the next chapter matters. In the next chapter, we build this truth. Build mental endurance. Because focus is not just about starting, it's about staying. That's next. Stay disciplined. Stay restrained. Stay in control.
Chapter 10. Build mental endurance. Starting is easy. Staying is rare. That's the key. Most people can focus for 5 minutes. Some can focus for 10. Very few can stay when it gets uncomfortable. And discomfort is where results are decided. Mental endurance is the ability to remain focused under strain. Not when it's exciting, not when it's new, but when it's repetitive, when it's boring, when it's hard. That's the difference between amateurs and professionals. Professionals stay. Here's a truth you need to accept. Your focus breaks long before your body does. You quit mentally first. You feel tired, but you're not exhausted. You feel bored, but you're not incapable. You feel resistance, but you're not in danger. Your mind is simply asking for relief, and most people give it immediately. That's the habit that must be broken. Mental endurance is not about grinding endlessly. It's about training the ability to stay longer than you want to. One more minute, one more paragraph, one more repetition. Those extra moments compound. That's the key. Let's talk about why endurance matters. Anyone can focus when conditions are perfect. Silence, energy, motivation. But real life is not perfect. Noise appears, energy drops, motivation fades. Mental endurance is what carries you through those moments. Without it, focus collapses under pressure. Here's how most people sabotage endurance. They stop at the first sign of discomfort. The moment work feels heavy, they switch tasks. The moment boredom appears, they seek stimulation. The moment doubt arises, they disengage. This trains quitting, and what you train, you strengthen. That's the key. Endurance is built the same way strength is built, gradually. You don't start by lifting the heaviest weight. You start with manageable load, then increase. The same applies to focus. Short sessions first, then slightly longer, then longer again. Progressive overload.
Here's a powerful rule. Stay 5 minutes longer than you want to quit. That 5 minutes is training. Not the first part, not the easy part. The part where your mind says, enough. Stay. That's where endurance is built. Let's talk about discomfort again. Discomfort is not a warning sign. It's a growth signal. Your brain is adapting. When you stay through discomfort, you expand capacity. When you escape it, you shrink capacity. That's the trade. Most people misinterpret mental fatigue. They think, I can't focus anymore. What they really mean is, I don't want to focus anymore. Want and can are not the same. You have a choice. Obey the feeling or test the limit. Testing the limit builds confidence. Here's something important. Endurance builds trust with yourself. Every time you stay when it's hard, you prove something. You prove you're reliable. You prove you don't quit easily. You prove you can handle pressure. That identity shift changes how you approach everything. Let's talk about pacing. Mental endurance is not about rushing. Rushing burns you out. Steady pace sustains focus. Slow is smooth. Smooth is strong. When you rush, you drain energy quickly. When you pace, you last longer. That's the key. Another mistake people make. They confuse breaks with escapes. A break is intentional. An escape is impulsive. Breaks are planned. Escapes are emotional. Breaks restore endurance. Escapes weaken it. Know the difference. Here's a powerful endurance strategy. Work in waves. Deep focus, short recovery, back to focus. Not endless grinding, not constant stopping. Structured intensity builds stamina. Let's talk about mental chatter. As endurance is tested, the mind complains. This is pointless. This is too much. You can stop now. That voice is not truth. It's discomfort trying to end the session. You don't argue with it. You don't believe it. You continue. That's the key.
Another truth. Endurance is built in silence. Music can help sometimes. Noise can motivate briefly. But silence exposes the real challenge. Staying with your own mind. If you can focus in silence, you can focus anywhere. Let's address rest. Mental endurance does not mean ignoring recovery. Recovery makes endurance sustainable. Sleep matters. Nutrition matters. Movement matters. A neglected body limits focus. Discipline includes recovery. Here's the discipline rule. Rest on schedule, not on impulse. If you rest because you planned to, endurance improves. If you rest because it got uncomfortable, endurance weakens. That's the difference. Now, let's talk about frustration. Frustration is common during deep focus. Progress feels slow. Results feel distant. That's normal. Endurance means continuing anyway. Progress often happens invisibly before it becomes visible. Most people quit right before the breakthrough, because breakthroughs require staying longer than comfort allows. Endurance creates breakthroughs. Your challenge for this chapter is simple and demanding. In your next focus session, decide the duration. When you feel like quitting, stay 5 minutes longer. No phone, no switching, no negotiation. Just stay. At first, those extra minutes will feel heavy. Good. That heaviness is training. Over time, those 5 minutes become normal, then 10, then more. Your capacity expands. Here's what happens when mental endurance grows. Focus sessions feel easier. Distractions lose power. Confidence becomes quiet and steady because you know you can stay. But there's another problem waiting. As endurance grows, thinking can still get in the way. Overthinking, analysis paralysis, mental loops. That's the next obstacle. In the next chapter, we confront this truth. Think less, execute more, because clarity is built through action, not rumination. That's next. Stay steady. Stay longer. Chapter 11. Think less, execute more. Overthinking feels productive. It's not. It feels intelligent. It's not. It feels safe. It's not. That's the key. Most people don't fail because they take the wrong action. They fail because they never take action at all. They think, they plan, they analyze, they imagine outcomes, and nothing moves. Action is delayed. Momentum dies. That's the trap. Let's be honest. Thinking is comfortable. It gives you the illusion of progress without the risk of exposure. No judgment, no failure, no feedback. Just thoughts. But thoughts don't change your life. Actions do. Here's the hard truth. Overthinking is procrastination wearing a smart disguise. Read that again. You don't think because you're strategic. You think because you're avoiding uncertainty. And uncertainty is where growth lives. That's the key. Most people believe they need clarity before action. That belief keeps them stuck. Here's the truth. Clarity comes from action, not before it. You don't think your way into clarity. You move your way into it. Action reveals information. Thinking recycles the same doubts. Overthinking creates loops. What if I fail? What if I choose wrong? What if there's a better option? Those questions never end, because the mind can always imagine another scenario. Action ends the loop. That's the key. Let's talk about decision-making. Most decisions are reversible. You can adjust, you can refine, you can correct. But overthinkers treat every decision like it's permanent, so they freeze. And freezing is a decision too, usually the worst one. Here's a powerful truth. Speed beats perfection. Fast feedback beats perfect planning. When you move quickly, you learn quickly. When you hesitate, you stagnate. Progress favors action takers. Most people confuse intelligence with hesitation. They think smart people think longer. Not true. Smart people decide faster because they trust adjustment. They know they can course correct. They don't need certainty. They need movement. Overthinking also destroys focus. Why? Because thinking splits attention. You're mentally everywhere. Past mistakes, future fears, imagined outcomes. Execution anchors attention in the present. One task, one move, one step. That's focus. Let's talk about fear again. Fear fuels overthinking. Fear of being wrong, fear of looking foolish, fear of wasting time. But here's the truth. Action reduces fear. Thinking magnifies it. The longer you sit with fear, the bigger it becomes. The moment you act, fear shrinks. That's the key. Another dangerous habit, waiting for the best option. Best timing, best conditions, best mood. Best rarely comes. And when it does, you're not ready because you didn't practice. Good enough action beats perfect intention. Every time. Here's a simple rule to live by. If a decision takes more than 5 minutes, you're probably overthinking. Decide, act, adjust. That loop builds confidence. Let's talk about execution. Execution is not glamorous. It's repetitive, messy, uncertain. There are no guarantees. That's why most people avoid it. But execution is where results live. When you execute, you get feedback. Feedback teaches you faster than thinking ever could. You learn what works, you learn what doesn't, you refine. That's progress. Most people want to avoid mistakes. That desire keeps them average. Mistakes are not enemies, they are teachers. But teachers only show up when you take action. Another truth you need to accept. You don't need to feel confident to execute. Confidence is built after action. Waiting for confidence is another delay tactic. You don't need their permission. You don't need your thoughts' approval. You need to move. Let's address analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis happens when options multiply. Too many choices, too many inputs, too much information. The solution is not more analysis, it's commitment. Choose one path, move forward, ignore the rest. Focus sharpens when options narrow. Here's a powerful phrase to repeat. Decide once, execute daily. Stop reopening decisions. Redeciding drains energy. Execution builds momentum. Execution also builds trust with yourself. Every time you act instead of overthink, you send your brain a message.
I am someone who moves. That identity compounds. Let's be practical. Here's how you break overthinking. Limit thinking time, set a decision deadline, take the first concrete action. Action doesn't need to be perfect, it needs to exist. Another rule: when in doubt, default to action. If you're unsure, move. If you're hesitant, start. If you're stuck, execute something small. Small action beats big hesitation. Most people wait for certainty. Winners build certainty through repetition. Each action makes the next one easier. Momentum replaces doubt. That's the key. Your challenge for this chapter is simple and uncomfortable. Today, identify one thing you've been overthinking. Then do the smallest executable step. Not tomorrow, not later. Now. You might feel tension. That's normal. You might feel fear. That's expected. Do it anyway. Action breaks mental chains. Over time, something changes. Your mind becomes quieter. Decisions become faster. Confidence becomes grounded. Because you stop living in your head and start living in reality. But there's another layer. Even decisive people lose clarity when life becomes cluttered. Too many commitments, too much noise, too many obligations. Execution needs space. And that leads us to the next chapter. Because the next truth is this: simplify your life to sharpen your mind. Focus thrives in simplicity. That's next. Stay decisive, stay active, stay moving.
Chapter 12. Simplify your life to sharpen your mind. Complexity weakens focus. That's the key. The more you carry, the harder it is to move. The more you juggle, the more you drop. Most people are not overwhelmed because life is hard. They're overwhelmed because life is crowded. Too many commitments, too many inputs, too many distractions pretending to be responsibilities. And a crowded life creates a scattered mind. Here's a hard truth you need to face. Focus cannot exist in clutter. Mental clutter, physical clutter, schedule clutter. They all drain attention quietly. You don't notice it immediately. You just feel tired, foggy, unclear. That's complexity at work. Most people think adding more will fix their problems. More tools, more strategies, more information. It doesn't. It makes things worse. Because complexity increases decision-making, and decision-making drains energy. That's the key. Let's talk about your mental noise. Every open loop in your mind consumes energy. Unfinished tasks, unmade decisions, unclear priorities. Your brain keeps them running in the background, like too many tabs open. Eventually, performance slows. Simplification closes tabs. Here's the truth. You don't need more input. You need less noise. Most people consume far more than they produce. News, content, opinions, advice. And then they wonder why they feel confused. Clarity does not come from more consumption. It comes from subtraction. Simplifying your life means making deliberate cuts. Cuts in commitments, cuts in obligations, cuts in distractions. This is uncomfortable because cutting means saying no, and saying no feels risky, but not cutting is riskier because it costs you focus. You have a choice: be available to everything or effective at something. That's the choice. Let's talk about your schedule. Your schedule reveals your priorities. If your day is packed with low-value tasks, your mind will reflect that. Busy schedule, busy mind. Simplifying your schedule creates mental space, and mental space is where focus lives. Here's a powerful rule. If it's not essential, it's optional. And optional things should not dominate your day. Most people treat optional commitments as mandatory. They say yes automatically. Then they feel resentful, overloaded, distracted.
That's self-inflicted. Simplification starts with honesty. Ask yourself, what am I doing out of habit, not intention? What am I maintaining out of fear, not value? What am I saying yes to that doesn't move my life forward? Those answers reveal what must go. That's the key. Now, let's talk about physical clutter. Your environment affects your thinking more than you realize. Messy space, scattered attention. Your eyes scan constantly. Your brain processes constantly, even when you're not aware of it. Simplify your space. Fewer objects, clear surfaces, purposeful tools. Your mind will follow. Another truth. Complex systems break under pressure. Simple systems endure. When life gets stressful, only simple routines survive. That's why simplification strengthens discipline. Fewer decisions, clear defaults, automatic focus. Let's address digital clutter. Too many apps, too many platforms, too many inputs. Each one competes for attention. Remove what you don't actively use. Unsubscribe, unfollow, uninstall. Not because it's bad, but because it's unnecessary. Unnecessary things steal focus. Simplifying also means reducing goals. Too many goals dilute effort. You chase everything, you achieve little. One primary focus, a few secondary ones. That's enough. Anything more is noise. Most people fear missing out, but here's the truth. You miss out more by being scattered. Scattered effort produces scattered results. Focused effort produces momentum. Momentum creates opportunity. That's the key. Let's talk about obligations again. Some obligations are real, others are imagined. You feel responsible for things that are not actually yours. Other people's expectations, other people's urgency. You don't need their permission to simplify. Say it again. You don't need their permission. Simplification is not laziness, it's precision. You remove the unnecessary so the essential can breathe. That's focus. Here's a mindset shift. More simplicity equals more power, not less. When your life is simple, your mind is sharp. When your mind is sharp, execution improves. Everything compounds. Your challenge for this chapter is direct. Today, remove one thing, one commitment, one distraction, one unnecessary obligation. Not later, today. Feel the relief. That relief is clarity returning. Over time, simplification becomes addictive. You stop tolerating noise, you protect your time, you guard your attention, because you feel the difference. Here's what happens when your life simplifies. Decisions become easier. Focus deepens. Stress decreases. Confidence stabilizes. Because you're no longer carrying excess weight. But there's one more truth left. Even with a simplified life, focus can still slip if you don't show up consistently. Focus is not a one-time win. It's a daily choice. And that's where we go next. In the next chapter, we lock this in. Focus is a daily choice. Because mastery is not intensity, it's consistency. That's next. Stay clear, stay light, stay focused.
Chapter 13. Focus is a daily choice. Focus is not something you achieve once and keep forever. That's the illusion. Focus is something you choose every single day. That's the key. Most people think focus is a breakthrough moment. A switch flips, a habit locks in, a new version of them appears. That's not how it works. Focus is maintenance. Like physical fitness, like hygiene, like integrity. You don't train once and stay strong. You don't clean once and stay clean. You choose daily. Here's the truth most people resist. You are always one decision away from distraction, no matter how disciplined you become.
That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. What separates focused people from distracted ones is not perfection. It's recommitment. Every morning you wake up neutral. Yesterday's focus doesn't carry automatically. You must re-earn it. That's the key. Most people fail here. They have one good day, then they relax. They think, I've got this now. And slowly, quietly, old habits return. One check, one scroll, one exception, and momentum fades. Focus erodes subtly, not through chaos, but through small compromises. I'll just check quickly. I'll skip the ritual today. I'll get back on track tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes never. That's how discipline dies. Here's a hard truth. Consistency is boring. There's no excitement in showing up again, no applause, no rush, just repetition. And repetition is exactly what builds mastery. Most people crave intensity. They want dramatic change, big motivation, powerful emotions. But intensity is temporary. Consistency is quiet, uncelebrated, effective. That's the key. Focus as a daily choice means this. You do not negotiate with distractions. You do not debate with habits you already decided. You don't ask, do I feel like it today? You ask, what does the standard require today? Standards don't change with mood. Let's talk about standards. Standards are pre-made decisions. They remove choice. I start at this time. I protect this block. I do the hard thing first. I don't scroll before work. No thinking, no debate. You already decided. That's discipline. Most people rely on intention. I intend to focus today. Intentions are weak. Standards are strong. Standards create behavior even when intention disappears. That's the key. Daily focus also means daily humility. Some days will go badly. You'll drift. You'll break focus. You'll waste time. That does not make you a failure. It makes you human. What matters is what happens next. Do you spiral or do you reset? Resetting is the skill. Here's a powerful mindset. Never miss twice. One bad day is an event. 2 bad days is a pattern. You don't punish yourself. You don't overcorrect. You return immediately. That's strength. Most people quit after a slip. Focused people recommit faster. That's the difference. Let's talk about identity again. You are not becoming focused someday. You act like a focused person today. Identity follows behavior. Every focused choice reinforces the identity. Every distracted choice weakens it. You vote every day. Daily focus also requires forgiveness. Not excuses, forgiveness. If you carry guilt, you lose energy. If you reset cleanly, you regain momentum. Guilt is distraction disguised as responsibility. Let it go. Return to the work. Another truth. Focus is easier to maintain than to rebuild. That's why small daily discipline matters. 10 minutes of focus daily beats 2 hours once a week. Consistency preserves momentum. Momentum reduces resistance. Let's talk about mornings again. How you start the day often decides how it ends. If you begin reactively, you'll chase all day. If you begin intentionally, you lead all day. Daily choice starts early. Here's a simple daily focus checklist. Did I protect my first focus block? Did I avoid early stimulation? Did I work on what matters most? Not perfection, awareness. Awareness builds control. Daily focus also means accepting boredom. Not every session will feel meaningful. Not every effort will feel rewarding. You stay anyway. Because discipline does not depend on feeling. It depends on commitment. Most people quit when the novelty fades. Focused people continue when routine begins. That's the key. Here's the truth no one tells you. Mastery feels repetitive. Same actions, same structure, same discipline, over and over, until one day results appear, quietly. Daily focus is not heroic, it's ordinary, and ordinary actions repeated long enough create extraordinary outcomes. Your challenge for this chapter is simple and powerful. Every morning, ask one question. What does focus require from me today? Then do that. Not everything, just that. Some days it will be easy. Some days it will be hard. Do it anyway. That's the choice. When you make focus a daily decision, something changes. You stop chasing motivation. You stop fearing distraction. You stop relying on emotion. You become steady, reliable, unshakable. But there is one final layer, one last discipline that separates focused people from unstoppable ones. Because at the highest level, focus requires something radical. It requires becoming unreachable. In the final chapter, we confront this truth. Become unreachable to become unstoppable. Because deep focus demands distance. That's next. Stay consistent, stay disciplined, stay choosing focus.
Chapter 14. Become unreachable to become unstoppable. Accessibility is the enemy of greatness. That's the key. The more reachable you are, the more breakable your focus becomes. Every interruption is a fracture. Every just one thing pulls you out of depth. And depth is where real results are created. Let's be honest, most people are proud of being available, always responding, always reachable, always connected. They call it being responsible, being supportive, being professional. But what it really is being interruptible. And interruptible people rarely do deep work. Here's the truth you must accept. If you are reachable at all times, you will never reach your full potential. That's not arrogance, that's reality. Great work requires isolation. Not permanent isolation, but intentional distance. That's the key. Every major breakthrough in history was created away from noise, away from constant input, away from social pressure, away from distraction. Not because people hated others, but because focus needs space. Most people confuse availability with value. They think being needed makes them important. It doesn't. It makes them busy, and busyness is the enemy of mastery. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot be deeply focused and constantly accessible at the same time. Choose one. You have a choice. Be responsive to everything, or be effective at something meaningful. That's the choice. Becoming unreachable does not mean disappearing. It means controlling access. Who can reach you, when they can reach you, how they can reach you. That control protects your best energy. Most people let others decide their availability. Notifications decide, messages decide, other people's urgency decides. That's giving away authority. Take it back. That's the key. Let's talk about the myth of urgency. Most interruptions feel urgent. Very few actually are. Urgency is often emotional, not practical. If everything feels urgent, nothing is important. Unreachable time reveals what truly matters. Here's a powerful reframe. Silence is a productivity tool. When you remove incoming noise, your thinking becomes sharper. Your mind stops reacting and starts creating. That's focus at its highest level. Now let's talk about guilt. Many people fear becoming unreachable because they feel guilty. What if someone needs me? What if I seem rude? What if I miss something important? Here's the truth. If you don't protect your future, no one else will. You don't need their permission. Say it again. You don't need their permission. Becoming unreachable also reveals something important. Some people only valued your availability, not your work, not your growth, not your future. When you pull back, they react. That reaction is information. Use it. Here's another hard truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Access must be earned by respect, by alignment, by value. Unlimited access devalues your focus. Let's be practical. Unreachability is scheduled, not random, not emotional, scheduled. Deep work blocks where phone is off or in another room, notifications are disabled, messages wait, the world pauses. This is not extreme, this is necessary. During unreachable time, you do not explain, you do not apologize, you do not check, you commit. Because commitment builds power.
Another powerful shift? Response time is not a measure of respect. Quality of work is. People who matter will understand boundaries. People who don't decide your future. Let's talk about solitude. Solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is where thinking deepens, where clarity emerges, where ideas connect. Most people fear solitude because it removes distraction, but distraction was the escape. Solitude is the work. Here's what happens when you become unreachable regularly. Focus deepens faster. Work quality improves. Confidence stabilizes. Self-respect increases. Because you stop fragmenting your attention. Most people want results without changing availability. It doesn't work. You must trade accessibility for achievement. That's the key. Becoming unreachable also simplifies decisions. No constant reacting, no emotional whiplash. You decide when to engage. That control is freedom. Let's address one more fear. What if I miss an opportunity? Here's the truth. Opportunities favor prepared minds, and preparation requires focus. If you're always reacting, you're never ready. Your challenge for this chapter is bold but necessary. Starting tomorrow, create one unreachable block, 30 minutes minimum. No phone, no messages, no interruptions, just deep work. Protect it like it matters, because it does. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. Good. That discomfort means you're breaking dependency. Over time, unreachable time becomes sacred, non-negotiable. Here's what you'll notice. The world doesn't collapse. Most things can wait, and your best work finally emerges because it had space. Becoming unreachable is not selfish. It's responsible, because your potential matters, your future matters, and focus is how you honor it. You are now at the final understanding. You've learned how to remove distraction, how to train focus, how to build endurance, how to simplify, how to choose focus daily, how to protect it fiercely. Now the only thing left is to live it. Not once, not sometimes, daily, quietly, relentlessly. Focus like a genius and let the world wait.
Focus is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters without interruption. You don't need more time. You need more control. Every focused hour compounds. Every distracted day disappears. If you want an uncommon life, you must master a rare skill, the ability to focus. So decide now. Choose depth over noise, discipline over distraction. Focus like a genius and let the results speak for you.